How can a story from the Old Testament be both controversial and profoundly thought-provoking? Today, I'm focusing on a narrative that many find disturbing, found in the book of Judges, chapters 19 through 21. This section of the Bible is not only considered one of the most impactful but also emotionally challenging, making it unsuitable for younger viewers. Therefore, I ask my audience to understand the sensitive nature of this content. This video will dramatically present the shocking tale from the well-known 19th chapter, often overlooked in its entirety, and explore the important lessons we can learn. Through this narrative, we can gain insights into the depths of human nature and the complexity of historical contexts. The story serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of moral and social breakdowns, highlighting the importance of justice, compassion, and integrity in any society. In Judges 19 verse 1, we read, "In those days when there was no king in Israel, a certain Levite was living in a remote area of the hill country of Ephraim. He took to himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. This Levite, who lives in the northern part of Israel, took this woman as his concubine or wife, however you choose to refer to her. The woman lived in Bethlehem in the south and, after being unfaithful, returned to her father's house. She stayed there for 4 months. This initial act of infidelity sets the stage for a series of tragic events that reveal the darker aspects of human nature and societal norms. At this point in the story, the Levite wants to get his wife back and travels from the northern hill country of Ephraim to Bethlehem in the south to find her. This journey, spanning several regions of Israel, underscores the Levite's determination and the cultural practices surrounding marriage and reconciliation during that era. The Levite's resolve to retrieve his concubine, despite her betrayal, illustrates the complex dynamics of love, duty, and honor in ancient Israelite society. When the Levite arrives, he finds the woman's father very hospitable, who repeatedly asks him to stay. The Levite accepts and stays for several days. This hospitality, though seemingly generous, also reflects the underlying tension and the cultural importance of familial ties and respect. Eventually, he says, "I appreciate your hospitality, but I need to leave. I need to go home." He and his concubine set out to travel back from Bethlehem in the south to the north, approaching Jebus as the day is nearly over. The servant suggests, "Why don't we stop and spend the night in this city of Jebus?" The master replies, "We won't stop in a city of foreigners who are not of the children of Israel. Let's continue on to Gibeah." This decision highlights the Levite's concern for safety and cultural alignment, choosing to stay among his own people rather than foreigners. The servant suggests they try to reach one of these places and spend the night in Gibeah or Ramah. They continue their journey and approach Gibeah as the sun is setting. When they reach Gibeah in Benjamin, it's surprising that no one is willing to take them in. Hospitality was a crucial part of Israeli culture. At the end of the night, an elderly man came and asked why they were still there. He asked, "Hasn't anyone offered you a place to stay?" They replied, "No one has taken us in." The old man said, "You can stay with me tonight." The Levite responded, "Great, we don't need anything. We have enough food for the donkeys, myself, and my concubine. We just need a place to rest our heads. If you could provide us with a pillow, that's all we need." The old man said, "No problem. You can stay with me." This exchange not only emphasizes the significance of hospitality but also foreshadows the imminent danger and moral decay within the community. So, the Levite, his servant, and his concubine spent the night in the old man's house in Gibeah. Later, while they were enjoying themselves, wicked men from the city surrounded the house and beat on the door. They called out to the old man, "Bring out the man who came to your house so that we may know him carnally." This demand is a chilling echo of the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, illustrating the pervasive nature of wickedness and the breakdown of social order. At this point in the story, the men of Benjamin from Gibeah come to the old man's house and demand that the guests be sent out. The host goes outside and says, "Please do not act so wickedly, my brothers. This man has come under my roof, and do not commit this vile act. Here is my virgin daughter and the man's concubine. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do whatever you want to them. But do not do this outrageous thing to this man." This horrifying offer reflects the desperation and the distorted sense of honor and protection prevalent in that society. The old man's willingness to sacrifice the women to protect his male guest underscores the deeply ingrained patriarchy and the devaluation of women during that time. Things turn even more tragic from here. Verse 25 says, "But the men would not listen to him. So the Levite took his concubine and put her outside, and they abused and raped her all night until morning. When the morning came, they let her go." This video needs to note that this content is sensitive and might be disturbing for some viewers. The perverted men had sexual relations with this woman in turn, abusing her throughout the night and finally releasing her just before dawn. The woman managed to make her way back to the door of the house where her master was, collapsing on the ground. After enduring the abuse and violence all night, she barely had the strength to return home. The woman lay on the doorstep, and as morning came, her master opened the door to leave and saw her lying there. This scene is one of the most heart-wrenching moments in the narrative, highlighting the extreme brutality and lack of humanity that had overtaken the men of Gibeah. He said to her, "Get up, let's go." But there was no answer. She had been so brutally abused that she had died. The story then notes that the man took her body, cut it into 12 pieces, and sent these pieces throughout the territories of Israel. This horrifying act shocked and dismayed Israel. Everyone who saw it said, "Such a thing has never happened or been seen since the day the children of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt." They urged the people to consider this and speak about it. The Levite's decision to dismember his concubine and send the pieces to the 12 tribes was a desperate and gruesome call for justice. This act served as a graphic and shocking message to the entire nation, compelling them to confront the atrocity that had occurred. It was a powerful, albeit horrific, method to galvanize the tribes of Israel to address the moral decay and lawlessness that had taken root in their society. The response was immediate and profound. When the other tribes saw and read about what had happened to this woman, they were filled with grief and anger. They said that such an event had never been seen in history. This event caused a huge uproar and deep grief and anger among the people of Israel. The entire nation was called to unite against the perpetrators and seek justice for the heinous crime committed. Now, there is much more to the story in chapters 20 and 21, so I want you to stay tuned for the continuation. But let's start looking at some lessons we can learn from this. The first lesson is that when we lack responsibility in our lives, we are more likely to make wrong decisions. As we read in Judges 19 verse 1, "In those days there was no king in Israel." People are more prone to making poor decisions when they feel unaccountable or are not held responsible for their actions. They act on their own desires without answering to anyone, leading to significant chaos and moral decline in society. The absence of a king symbolized a lack of central authority and governance, leading to an environment where individuals felt free to follow their own inclinations without regard for collective moral or ethical standards. This lack of accountability fostered an atmosphere where people could easily justify their actions, no matter how detrimental they were to themselves or others. When there is no one to answer to, personal desires often take precedence over communal well-being, resulting in a fractured and morally unstable society. There was no king, and although there was a law, people didn't respect or follow it. Consequently, they did things they probably never imagined doing. The societal breakdown was evident as people began to prioritize their own interests over the common good, leading to actions that were once unimaginable. This historical context serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of having a structured system of accountability to prevent moral decay. The second mini-lesson I want to address is that we must treat every person as if they bear the image of God. The elderly man in the story thought it was wrong to do something bad to his guest, but he considered it acceptable to do whatever he wanted to his own daughter and the Levite's concubine. This shows that he valued his guest's life and virtue less than his own daughters and the concubines. This flawed sense of morality highlights the dangers of selective empathy and the importance of recognizing the inherent dignity and worth of every individual, regardless of their status or relationship to us. This disturbing disparity in the man's values highlights a profound ethical failure. He believed protecting his guest was paramount, yet he disregarded the inherent dignity and worth of the women in his care. This double standard is a stark reminder of the importance of recognizing the intrinsic value of every individual, regardless of their relationship to us. Each person, being made in the image of God, deserves to be treated with respect and compassion. This moment in the narrative underscores how selective morality can lead to grave injustices and the dehumanization of certain individuals based on societal roles or relationships. What's important here is to avoid inappropriate and disturbing scenes. You should not watch things online that you know you shouldn't. You should see every woman you look at as someone's daughter and someone made in the image of God. You wouldn't want to see your own daughter in those situations, would you? We should acknowledge that every person is made in the image of God and act accordingly. If you wouldn't want someone's daughter to be seen in that way, you should show the same respect to others' daughters. This perspective should guide our interactions and shape our behavior towards others, promoting a culture of respect and empathy. This principle extends beyond personal conduct and into the realm of societal norms. By cultivating a mindset that honors the dignity of all individuals, we contribute to a culture that respects and upholds the value of human life. This awareness can prevent harmful behaviors and promote a more compassionate and ethical society. When we collectively uphold the sanctity of human dignity, we create environments where people are valued and protected, and where justice prevails over exploitation. The third thing I want to highlight in this video is that the farther we get from God, the more vulnerable we become to doing things we never imagined. When you look at the book of Judges as a whole, you see how a nation that gradually moves away from God becomes corrupted. The events in chapters 19 to 21 represent the pinnacle of this departure from God and show how the nation as a whole distanced itself from Him. This progressive estrangement from divine principles led to moral decay, societal chaos, and ultimately, devastating consequences for the community. The gradual decline of Israel's moral and spiritual fabric serves as a cautionary tale for us today. As the people drifted further from their foundational beliefs and values, they became increasingly susceptible to corruption and depravity. This erosion of spiritual integrity led to actions and decisions that had devastating consequences for the entire community. The historical narrative in Judges illustrates how crucial it is to stay anchored in our faith and values, to prevent such moral disintegration in our own lives. By reflecting on these lessons, we can better understand the importance of maintaining a close relationship with God and the impact of our decisions on ourselves and others. Staying grounded in our faith and values helps us navigate the complexities of life and avoid the pitfalls that arise from moral and spiritual neglect. It is through this steadfast connection with the divine that we find the strength and guidance to uphold ethical standards and foster a just and compassionate society. You and I are not different. If we cannot maintain a close relationship with God and stray from Him, we might find ourselves doing things we never thought we would do, just like the Israelites. 10 years ago, if someone had told us we'd do such things, we wouldn't have believed it. We wouldn't have thought we'd face things like divorce, infidelity, or losing our jobs. We'd think it's impossible to be caught watching something inappropriate online or using drugs. But by the end of chapter 19, things get even worse. In chapter 20, we see a civil war erupt among the 11 tribes of Israel. They fight against the tribe of Benjamin because the perpetrators of this horrific act were from Benjamin. The Israelites come together to stop this injustice and brutality, but it leads to a major conflict between brothers. The war against the tribe of Benjamin leaves a deep mark on Israel's history and shows how devastating it can be to stray from God. This conflict, driven by a quest for justice, ultimately results in a tragic fratricidal war, highlighting the profound consequences of moral and spiritual disunity. The severity of this conflict is a stark reminder of what happens when we lose our way and distance ourselves from divine guidance. The Israelites, who once stood united, found themselves in a brutal civil war, tearing each other apart. This internal strife wasn't just a battle, it was a reflection of their collective failure to uphold the principles that once bound them together. Their unity shattered, and the consequences were dire. The devastation wrought by their actions serves as a powerful warning of the importance of spiritual and moral cohesion. In summary, when we lack responsibility in our lives and move away from God, we can find ourselves in situations we never imagined. Therefore, We should maintain a close relationship with God and treat every person as someone made in the image of God. Our connection with the divine is not just a personal journey but a communal safeguard, preventing us from descending into chaos and despair. By staying true to our faith and values, we can ensure that we remain on a path of righteousness, fostering a society built on justice, compassion, and mutual respect. I recommend reading chapters 20 and 21 in detail, but to summarize, there was a great war, and as a result, thousands of lives were lost on both sides. The conflict was so intense that it nearly obliterated an entire tribe. The tribe of Benjamin, which once thrived, was reduced to a mere 600 men. With no women left for them to marry, the future of the tribe hung in the balance. The scale of this war was immense, with brother fighting against brother, resulting in devastating casualties. The 11 tribes, driven by a desire for justice and retribution, waged a relentless battle against the Benjaminites. The ferocity of the conflict was such that it almost led to the complete annihilation of the tribe of Benjamin, leaving only 600 men who had fled to the rock of Rimmon. This catastrophic outcome not only decimated the population but also left the surviving men without wives, threatening the very existence of their lineage and heritage. In chapter 21, the other 11 tribes began to feel remorse for the tribe of Benjamin. They realized the magnitude of their actions and the potential extinction of one of Israel's 12 tribes. Their initial desire for justice had spiraled into a near genocide, prompting a desperate search for a solution to preserve the Benjaminites. The gravity of their decisions became painfully clear as they confronted the prospect of losing one of their own tribes forever. This collective remorse underscores the complexity of human emotions and the unforeseen consequences of actions driven by anger and vengeance. This leads to my fourth lesson: every bad decision we make has unintended consequences. Even though the actions of the Benjaminites were wrong, the decision of the other 11 tribes to fight and severely punish the tribe of Benjamin caused unanticipated problems. The long-term consequences of decisions can impact entire families, tribes, or even nations. This historical episode vividly illustrates how decisions, made in the heat of the moment, without full consideration of their repercussions, can lead to outcomes far beyond what was originally intended. The remaining tribes, grappling with the aftermath of their actions, sought ways to ensure the survival of the Benjaminites. They devised a plan to provide wives for the 600 surviving men, thus securing the future of the tribe. This situation highlights the importance of foresight and the need to weigh the potential impacts of our actions. It serves as a poignant reminder that while seeking justice is crucial, it must be balanced with compassion and wisdom to avoid exacerbating conflicts and creating new problems. It's essential to reflect on our decisions and consider their broader implications. We should be aware of how our choices can affect others and try to avoid making decisions that lead to harm or unintended consequences. Our actions today can ripple through time, shaping the lives of future generations in ways we might never foresee. By thinking carefully about the potential outcomes and striving to make choices that promote well-being and justice, we can create a more stable and harmonious society. Thanks for joining me on this journey through this challenging story. If you found this video helpful or thought-provoking, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others who might benefit from it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Together, let's continue to explore and learn from the profound lessons hidden within our ancient texts. By delving into these stories, we can uncover timeless truths and wisdom that guide us in our modern lives, fostering a deeper understanding of our shared human experience.